Back? Are we on? Not great? Is that better? Okay. So how are we? Everybody good? Having a great time? Having a hard time, are we, girls? Enjoying the conference? Yes? I've enjoyed the conference immensely, and I would like to, at this point, thank the committee, Allison Gallant, Christine Dumont, Donna Greenberg, Cara, who am I forgetting? Everybody who worked on putting this thing together, thank you so much for bringing us all to beautiful Bordeaux. We've had a lot of good food, good talk, and good wine. So I'm glad to be here to talk to you. And I'm going to speak to you today about intentional design. I think a lot about intention. And the intention of my talk is to inform, inspire, and motivate you to make better, more conscious design choices, because that's the way to make better art. I'm very dry, so I'll be doing this a lot. There you are. You superhero, you. You are an accomplished person. You keep a lot of balls in the air. You have mastery and expertise over all the areas of your life. You have strong opinions. You know what you like. You've come a long way with your jewelry design, too. You have a finely developed aesthetic and good natural skills and abilities. Your hands are smart, and you know all the techniques. But you have questions. You ask yourself, does this look right? What's missing here? Where do I put this? How much is too much? And promising yourself, next time it'll be better. People do that? So, where is the information? Where is the information, the answers to your questions to ensure a better, more consistent artistic outcome? Not just once every 10 pieces, but every piece. Where do you find the tools to help take you to the next level? Ta-da! The answers to all your questions are found here. We need to discuss and understand design concepts and applications, what to do and how to do it, in order to effectively use them. Design concepts fall into two basic categories. The elements of design. Here they are. The elements of design are your cooking ingredients. They're your basic building blocks that you will combine in different ways to create a delicious meal. The same ingredients used in slightly different amounts will create very different outcomes. So, do you want to make grandma's chicken soup or Thai basil chicken soup? The choice is yours. These are the elements of design. I think of them as falling into two basic categories. What I call the object group, which is line, shape, form, and position, and the surface group, color, pattern, and texture. We're going to look at each one of these to see what it can do. Line. Line is the most basic element of formal analysis. In this case, the beads themselves are seen as lines. By changing the length, the width, by altering the surface of the line in this piece, you can see that it creates a kind of a mood, a feeling, right? An energy. And what would we say that is? Anybody? What do you think? What do you feel when you see this piece?
Perky.
perky. It's kind of summery, it's light, it's fresh, it's happy. And that is based on this floating number of lines that she's put together. In this case, the lines describe the bracelet form. That is to say that the lines go around the form and show us actually the shape that we're looking at. They move our eye from place to place, and they create an interesting surface treatment. When we change the line from geometric to organic, we create a very different feeling. You can see it's kind of the same design as the last piece. It's a bracelet circle with lines on the surface. We get one feeling here and a completely different feeling here. So choose the kind of line that describes what you're trying to say. Consciously make that choice. Do I want straight lines or organic lines? Shape. When lines get together in a closed space, they create shape. These geometric shapes are arranged in a very orderly, controlled way, which could get static, but the artist has very cleverly decided to lighten up the feeling by adding all this gestural surface effect. Very nicely done. These simple ovals, just little ovals, because of the fresh colors and that light, bright surface treatment, create a sunny, summery mood. So simple, but so effective. By tweaking your shapes, you go from geometric to organic. These shapes started out life as a triangle and an oval. And the artist manipulated them into something that's more natural. When combined with the natural use of wire and the surface treatment, you get a very different feeling. You can imagine for a second what this would look like if it was done in high contrast, say black and white, and regular geometric shapes. They're two different statements. It's what you want to say that matters. Form. Forms are kind of like three-dimensional shapes. They have length and depth and breadth. They're viewed from 3 dimensions. In the round, like a sculpture. Like a sculpture, you have to walk around to see the whole thing. While two-dimensional shapes are more like, they're flat, like paintings. So they're viewed from 1 dimension. And as jewelry designers, we need to consider both 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. I like to think of it as 2.5D. Necklaces and brooches lie relatively flat to the body, and they're viewed from 1 direction. You really only look at a necklace frontally. So then you want to consider 2-dimensional design considerations. On the other hand, rings, earrings, and some bracelets, as we just saw, are viewed from many angles, and therefore rely on 3D design considerations. Position. Position refers to where you put things. Well, the areas in and around design components. In this piece, I'd like to point out how the artist has consciously chosen where to put the repeated circle pattern. She's used it as cutouts right across here. Here. There it is there. Look how many circles there are here. Even this. Even this is a circle. And it moves your eye around the piece, keeps you busy, keeps you interested, keeps you looking. you put elements in a composition tells you how important they are to the composition. The most important place you can put things is right around the visual center. So if we look at this piece and we divide the image in quarters, you can do that in your mind, you'll see that most of the important elements are centered right around that visual center. Everything important is happening right here. Consciously and strategically chosen. Good one. Does anybody know who this artist is? Anybody know who this artist is? The position of design components affects the movement, balance, and unity of the piece. You can see the main motif that I see in this piece is this, I want to call it a boat, this boat-like crescent shape. Here, here, and here. Creates a kind of a triangle, and your eye passes around the piece like this. That's a good thing. You don't want it to sit in one spot. And then the echoes of the curves in the wire. It all brings it together and creates harmony out of these disparate elements. My favorite, color. Color to me is more about communicating emotions and expressiveness than it is about following color rules. Color should move you, excite you, or calm you down. It should make you gasp and sigh. Colors have energy, create a mood, a tone, evoke memories. Color is a very personal choice, and perhaps one of the best ways to express your personal point of view. Use colors that you love, that affect you deeply, that make you really feel something. Never shy away from a color. Never, don't have color prejudice. I suffer from this myself, so I know. Where's Fiona? Just find the right time and place to use that color. Effective color palettes should include darks and lights, dulls and brights. It doesn't really matter what the color is, but you have to have those elements, those nuances of the color in order to have a complete palette. Even in a two-tone palette, you can find areas which are very dark and very light. The edges are kind of dulled down gray, and some very bright reds. It doesn't really show up here, but this is really, really red. It's a gorgeous piece. Color palettes are not unlike your taste palette. They give you the ability to savor your meal. So let your color be tasty. Black and white color schemes are enriched by the range of shades of gray. And the scale from black to white with all the tones in between is called the value scale. For me, there's as much color in this piece as there was in the last piece. It's more subtle. You have to find it. But when you look at this piece, you'll see shades of burnt umber and red and cool shades of blue and green. Obviously the grays and all those creamy, eggy colors and the black lines. Pattern. I think of pattern in several ways. First, it's the surface pattern that we see here. Stripes, dots, squiggles, spirals, and of course all the things that we love to do, the millefiori, canes, and the mochame patterning. That's all the surface pattern. Here the pattern is created by the repetition of this element on the surface of the bead. The subtle variations and shape and texture on this bead give it a very sophisticated and interesting surface. Just for a moment, imagine what it would look like if all of those little thumbprints were exactly the same. It wouldn't have any of this sophistication and nuance. It would just look like a manufactured, thingy. Technical. Repetition of motif creates a different kind of pattern. We see here the repetition of what I will call a petal motif from the pot at the end, this bouquet, and this long section in the middle. It's all essentially a variation of the same element. So that's a different kind of patterning. Texture. Texture is the surface quality that can be seen and felt. Textures can obviously be rough or smooth or anything in between. Here, the rough texture of the focal piece is integrated throughout the necklace by the coarse handling of the wire. Imagine if this lovely focal piece were set in a shiny silver bezel with silver chain, everything shiny around it. It wouldn't hold together. Do you see? Yeah. So this choice to do really rough metal work is exactly the right one. Texture can be implied through surface design. What a lovely contrast here. I hope you've all had a chance to see these pieces. They're stunning. Between the appearance of roughness and the actual smooth, pristine surface. It's the contrast that makes us go, ah. Layering surface elements is referred to as visual texture. It's that depth of surface you hear people talk about. It's like you're looking into this necklace, down through the layers that she has developed. I think it's beautiful. I could look at this piece forever. There's so much to see. So those are the elements of design, and we'll just review. It all starts here. When lines get together, bring it into the third dimension. Where are you going to put that? Make it juicy. Repeat those motifs. Make me want to touch it. The second group of design concepts is called the principles of design. This is where you take all your ingredients and put them together in such a way that you create one delicious meal. Principles are the overarching concepts that are used to organize all your elements. Keep these things foremost in your mind, and you will make a strong, clear statement. Now is when you decide, are you going to make Grandma's chicken soup, or are you going to make the Thai basil chicken soup? Unity. Unity is the quality of wholeness that's achieved when all the elements work together in harmony. Everything about this piece is cohesive. From the limited color palette, the way the forms fit together, right? The repetition of the dots and the crossed lines, all elements consciously chosen, working together in perfect harmony. Unity is serving one master, telling one story, making one statement. Shapes, textures, and patterns, together with a coarse application, create a single story here. There's nothing that stands out and acts like it doesn't belong. It's all of a piece. And there are, of course, no missteps here. Color, form, position, everything works together to tell one story. There's nothing that makes you say, I wonder what that's doing there. Perfect harmony, carefully chosen. Movement. Movement is directing the viewer's eye through the composition, often to areas of emphasis. Movement can be directed by all of those elements we talked about before. Lines, shape, color, etc. Notice how your eye probably goes from one red zone to the next. This might start here, goes up around, comes back down like this. And then maybe it changes to the greens, mostly because of how much there is of each color. Each of these decisions was strategically and carefully made, you can be sure. Stuff doesn't just happen. The movement gives the viewer a richer and more engaged experience when looking at the object. In this case, the simple repeated squares are enhanced by these wisps of color on the top. Your eye jumps around, looking for where's the next turquoise swirl. And even when you think you found them all, you go back and double check. You keep making sure. Beautiful piece. Notice how engaged and active your eye is here. Yes? You don't just look at one moment in this necklace. I notice the oranges first. I just happen to love orange. And I find my eye just looking back and forth, zigzagging all around, trying to find every moment of orange that she's put in here. Maybe you like the pink, or the green, or maybe you're more attracted to the wire circles. Whatever it is, it keeps you interested and keeps you looking. It's like there's always something more to see. This is dry work up here. Balance. Balance refers to a sense of physical equilibrium, like the scales of justice or a child's teeter-totter. We should feel a sense of balance, feel it physically. We look at this brooch and we think no matter how precariously those bricks are stacked, it's not going to fall. Symmetrical or asymmetrical? Design should have a sense of equal visual weight, horizontally and or vertically. So if we take this as an example of asymmetric design, and again, we divide the image into 4 quadrants, we can see that part of the balance comes from this large element being in both of the bottom quadrants. Yes? And the top part, this element is balanced against the large clasp on this side. It actually, do you see now how it actually is in balance even though it seems to be so weighted on one side? Asymmetrical design requires more effort. I mean, there's no getting around it. This is a little bit harder to pull off, but it makes for a very exciting, unique, and artistic results. On the other hand, symmetry is strong, comfortable, stable. Symmetry makes for great jewelry design because it harmonizes with our basically symmetrical bodies. But remember, symmetry doesn't mean boring. This piece is sophisticated, fresh, and totally unique. Don't be afraid of symmetry. Don't think because these are modern times I have to do asymmetrical. Comme ça. Emphasis. Emphasis is all about focal points. It's the cherry on top of your ice cream sundae. It draws attention, creates movement, gives balance. Focus can be made by one powerful centralized element. A necklace with a pendant right in the middle. That creates focus. Or you can create more interest with a second layer or area of focus, like this very intelligent artist who gave us these red zones. It creates more dynamism in the design. It's that little extra something, something that gives you the next level. Repeat a color or a motif to create focus. Here we begin with, I'll call it the volcano in the center. And because it is a circle, your mind then thinks, let me look for other circles. So you start to follow the little echoes, circular echoes around the piece, including the tabs on the outside. Imagine what it would look like if those tabs were all square. What a difference it made when she consciously decided, it needs a little something more to balance it out. Proportion and scale. Proportion and scale both refer to size, so I've put them together. Scale refers to the size of the jewelry as it relates to the human form. So you can imagine what this piece looks like on a woman. You can see how well it fits with the woman's body. That's scale. How big is too big? I think the answer has more to do with weight than with size. These lovely, simple earrings is such a good design that you can imagine them as little 1-inch earrings or giant 4-inch earrings. The effect would be totally different. Can you see that? A little tiny thing or a big disc? You can choose. This is up to you. You can decide. Either way works. Proportion. Proportion is about size, but the size of the elements as they relate to each other. Like a good soup or stew, proportion is about not having one flavor overpower the sauce. Everything should work together. What would this piece look like if this little branch across the top were twice the size? It would be clumsy, clunky. It would lose all of its elegance and nuance. If you notice clunkiness in your work, it could be a proportion problem. Ooh. Rhythm. Rhythm is achieved by the repetition and variation of elements. The purpose is to create harmony through a lyrical energy. It should make you feel like singing and dancing. This certainly does. These simple repeated shapes, one shape repeated over and over again, combined with the beautiful Skinner blend of colors, gives this necklace a sense of gentle sway. Do you feel that? It just feels like an easy dance with your loved one. On the other hand, this piece is more like the Doppler effect. It starts out and the pieces get bigger and closer together. The repetition builds up speed, builds up energy, gets faster and faster and louder, and comes to a full stop at a red light. The gentle curve of this piece as it hugs the body represents something called flow. It's an organic and natural rhythm. It's the kind of thing you see when you walk in the woods. A gently flowing stream, the wind through the trees, a field of waving wheat. This is a special kind of rhythm that really is based in nature and should make you lower your blood pressure. This makes you go, ah. Variety. There's a lot going on here. So much variation, shape, color, pattern, form. The overall effect is one of playfulness. This is joie de vivre. Though a design may seem disconnected at first, repetition of like elements create harmony and draw the eye in and around the composition. So there's a lot going on. But once you start to notice, and you do it unconsciously, subconsciously, the repetition of, say, turquoise, the pinks, the pointy bits, and the bulby bits, pulls the whole thing together and once again tells one story. You can have your cake and eat it too. Le voilà. You bring order to variety by strategically repeating colors and forms. Here we have circles and pods. Green and, shall we call it, coral. Right? There's a lot going on.